Welcome. This is part 2 of the Eckhart series. This may be of interest to folks interested in mental health from the perspective of a psycho-spiritual tradition. And Eckhart indeed had influences on Carl Jung. Carl Gustav Jung mentioned that Eckhart provided him a key insight into the nature of the unconscious. So we will look at the condemnation of the church of that time. This was the French Inquisition. The character is Bishop Ignatius, who will deliver an argument to the Papal court. Pope John the 12th will be in attendance, and he will argue that Eckhart does not appear to depend on the full redemption model. In other words, the idea that we are inherently sinful appears in Eckhart's work to be not emphasized as it would be with the more orthodox perspective. In other words, the church is our only means to salvation through the Catholic Church. And of course, Eckhart is a Dominican priest, and the Inquisition will further discuss the Beguine. Now, the Beguine are women. They are lay spiritual. They're a lay spiritual community, and they populated Europe at that time. This is still the Holy Roman Empire, and there were thousands throughout the Denmark, Germany, France area, perhaps 10 of thousands. And the Orthodoxy was uncomfortable with them. These women did not take the oaths of nuns, and they had rather different ideas. 12 years earlier in Paris, Marguerite Porete was a Beguine, was actually burned at the stake and for heresy. And she wrote a book called Mirror of Simple Souls that likely influenced Meister Eckhart, though he, of course, was had a unique revelation. He certainly resonated with the Beguines, and he was indeed their support, if I may call him that. I would not say he was their leader. However, he was without a doubt sympathetic towards the Beguine. The Inquisitor will also argue that Meister Eckhart is inconsistent with Saint Augustine, who in his time, some 800 years earlier, also dealt with an unorthodox perspective from Pelagius, a Scot who was very popular and who argued that a child is born innocent, not born with the sin of Adam and Eve. So this was inconsistent with St. Augustine's theology, and indeed St. Augustine did discredit him. So you're going to notice the Inquisition sees some parallels between Pelagius and Eckhart. And so let's listen to the Inquisition's perspective on Meister Eckhart. We have shown in the last 5 days that Meister Eckhart, who claims to represent the Roman Catholic and Apostolic Church, defies the Church by dismissing the worship of a Savior who redeems us from hell. This dismissal of Church teaching explains his popularity with Beguines and other insurgents. There is no hell or punishment in Eckhart's Church. The complete absence of this teaching shouts defiance of God and His Church. We have further provided indisputable evidence that his intention is to lead simple people away from the worship of God the Father to God the human being, or even God the fly who makes his home in excrement. In Eckhart's theology, we are not lifted from the mire, for in this fraudulent church, this mire is heaven. Last, we have warned that Eckhart is part of a legion of thousands who are hostile to the Holy Roman Catholic Church. His preaching rallies the unorthodox, providing a bed of confusion and empty promises that lead the unwary to err against the Church that provides their only salvation. This inquisition has uncovered more than 40 instances in which Eckhart disguises his paganism by suggesting that God created this world. He leads the unwary to worship creation. Rather than recognizing a God beyond creation, he suggests that God is this very same fallen world. He has argued that to know God in a blade of grass or a shit-eating fly is better than knowing God's holy angels. It is fully apparent that he suggests we may worship the grass or the fly as if it were the same as the ruler of this world. In Eckhart's church, worms are equal to saints. This is not Christianity, but an anti-Christianity that worships this fallen existence. In our proceedings, we have heard Meister Eckhart invoke the name of St. Augustine on more than 20 occasions, as if he actually agreed with St. Augustine's teachings. This has been shown to be sheer manipulation, for nothing that St. Augustine deemed critical is found in Eckhart's teaching. The treachery is blatant and recurrent. Heresies jump from the pages of his sermons. Eckhart opens with a statement quoting St. Augustine that it is God that has created the heavens and the earth. He then launches into a heretical rant with the outrageous conclusion, and I quote, "Lay hold of God in all things, and this will be the sign of your birth, a sign that God has given birth in you himself as his only begotten Son, and nothing else." This is an outrageous and intolerable heresy. It is painfully clear that Eckhart inflates the ignorant, allowing them to believe that they are equivalent to the immaculately conceived Christ. Why would he do this? It is because he is no longer the Roman Catholic priest that was ordained by the Church. His titles and his robes are but disguises. In his time, the real St. Augustine, not the Augustine portrayed by Eckhart, battled the heresy of Pelagius the Scot. Pelagius blatantly denied mankind's original sin when we have been clearly taught that human nature is born of the disobedience of Adam and Eve. Can it be said more clearly than that. Only our Christ, immaculately conceived, entered this world without sin. This is St. Augustine's message, and it is fully absent from Eckhart's teaching. Why? It is because he hides the gates of hell from the eyes of the unwary. I have alerted this court that Eckhart is not alone, but builds a legion that will, in the ripening of time, lay siege upon the Church of God. Their weapons are not spears and swords, but seduction and confusion. Thus Eckhart preaches that love supplants penance, and that ignorance is knowledge. Eckhart is enmeshed in the Beguine insurgents. Their numbers swell like a festering wound on the body of the Church. There are now tens of thousands in the empire, at least 1,000 in Cologne alone, and hundreds in Strasbourg. Eckhart not only encourages them, he leads them in their unorthodoxy. The Beguines do not take the oaths of nuns because they are not of this church. On the contrary, they are of the counterfeit church that comes in the name of Christ and hastens the end of times. As the lead inquisitor, I seal our case, asking that this papal court consider the harm that awaits the Church of God if these hostilities and heresies are not condemned and punished. And so the Inquisition presents its argument. The last tape will be Eckhart's response.